Do you know
Hmm.
what your biggest challenge is when it comes to, I'm going to call it digital leadership? So
Hmm.
speaking, connecting through the camera.
Um, I think my biggest challenge is that I speak too quickly and I tend to mumble. In my head, it sounds great. Like in my head, I'm like, oh, I'm speaking very clearly. But when I watch myself back, I go, oh, I kind of talk fast and I mumble. That's pretty consistent.
Have you ever done any articulation exercises and things for your
Yeah,
diction?
the tip of the tongue, the teeth, the lips, the teeth, the tip of the tongue.
Yes.
Red leather, yellow leather, red leather, yellow leather. Yes, I've done some of those.
Do you do them before you go on stage, before you
Of
go on?
course not. No.
Ah, no, I've done them.
Why would I do something? Why would I do something logical like that? I mean, I used to be an actor, so yeah, I used to do that stuff.
Back in the days. We did all
I
these
love
things.
you. I
What?
love unique New York. I love unique New York.
Oh, that's a good one. I love unique New York.
Do you know that one?
No, but I was trained in Germany.
Oh,
So no.
great. So they're all German. Eins, zwei, Polizei, drei, vier, Guinevere, fünf, sechs, alten Hex. Sieben, acht, guten Nacht, neun, zehn, Kapitän. That kind of thing.
In einem dichten Fichtendickicht nicken dicke Fichten tüchtig.
Oh, I'm not going to try that. I love
Der
that.
Whisky-Mixer mixt Whisky fix im Whisky-Mixer.
I like these are nice.
They are, especially when you get them wrong, they get really naughty. Both of them, obviously.
Yeah. Okay.
They get like really out of line when you say them
Hmm.
wrong. So that
Hmm.
makes the tongue twister more fun. Okay, so
Hmm.
for the diction, you could reintroduce some unique New York leather.
Hmm.
What was it? I love unique New York red leather.
All right, so we're gonna do some of that. So I love unique New York. 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 Red leather, yellow leather, red leather, yellow leather, red leather, yellow leather, red leather, yellow leather, red leather, yellow leather. The tip of the tongue, the teeth, the lips, the teeth, the tip of the tongue. The tip of the tongue, the teeth, the lips, the teeth, the tip of the tongue. The tip of the tongue, the teeth, the lips, the teeth, the tip of the tongue.
Beautiful.
Yeah. How was
That
that?
that was really beautiful. I mean, you can tell that you've done this before.
Thank you.
Good. Okay, so we can go on. Let's go into storytelling. There's another piece that I want to speak to before we start because it's always the basics and the starting point when we see you. You know about the background, which actually the hotel room isn't a bad background at all.
Yeah, it's not that bad.
Something I notice about your videos, Toku, is that you often look down into the camera versus having it face to face, eye to eye. One
Okay.
of
Should I
those,
raise it up?
I would recommend that
Okay.
because I mean, I always like to say, don't let me see the ceiling, which is a shorthand for you're probably looking down.
Hmm. Don't let me see the ceiling.
That's another
All right,
one.
I'm gonna
Eh?
make.
Don't let me see the
Right.
ceiling. The ceiling is not for me.
Don't let me see the ceiling. Let me see the ceiling. I'm writing that down as a note. That's a good note. Okay. All right. Let me get something to move it upwards, which I can easily do.
Your computer is meanwhile singing, you raise me up so I can stand on mountains. Is that the words?
I don't know. I mean, I know the song, but I'm not sure that I'm not good with words.
You're
Let me.
fantastic with words.
Not song lyric words. Okay. Let's
You
see if that's.
raise me up. Oh,
Hmm,
wow. Now, sit down and look at that as a background,
that's better.
except for the air conditioning. So twist it this way.
Okay. How's that?
That's
But
beautiful.
I'm a little bit in the picture. Is that this picture is right behind me? Is that okay?
Yeah, the picture is not doing much for us because it's in a glass frame and reflecting the light. I don't really
Okay.
see too much, so you might as well be in front of it.
Okay. Great. I'll just be right in front of it. How's that?
Yeah, so that's okay, except that we're now thinking, what's that behind his ear? What's going
So just a
on?
little bit to one side, like that is
Yeah,
better.
yeah.
Okay.
Just
Great.
because if it's just a little, it's just like, what's happening? Why is it just on that one side? That's great. Now I know
Right.
it's a picture. Great.
Okay.
So for background, that was a really simple adjustment to make it look more settled and soothed and like somebody knows what he's doing.
Good. I like that.
So it's beautiful on the eyes. On the audio side of things, how come you're using this headset? Is there a specific reason that you're loving it?
No, I just generally use it, but I can turn it off.
What happens if you turn it off?
Is this better?
Ah, okay. So we're having more of a spacious sound because we're using the computer, yeah?
Yes, we're using the computer now.
I prefer it because the headset has a sound like a telephone.
Okay.
So I don't know if people give you that feedback, but you sound like somebody who's on the phone.
Yeah, I mean, I usually just use it for calls because it has a good noise canceling feature. So if a truck drives by or someone bangs in the hallway, it blocks it out. But that's for calls, not for video. I usually will do this for video.
Okay, yeah, that's much better. And if you want to go pro, you get yourself an external microphone.
Okay, got
But
it.
obviously, I understand you're in a nomadic lifestyle that might not be on the top of your list.
Just like a lapel mic, basically.
So you can have a lapel mic, or okay, you're hearing the sound of my sound. I'm going to turn it off so you can see the difference. So this is the sound of the MacBook itself.
Hmm.
It's not bad sound with a
But the
computer.
other sound was better.
But if I put on my other sound, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8,
Oh yeah.
should be like really close to you now, right? It's got
And is it a lapel or is it a boom mic? You're gonna show me.
I want to show you.
Oh, cool.
This is a beauty here. So this is not a lapel mic. This is a Rode microphone.
Yeah, I mean, I actually have like a podcasting microphone. It's in my stuff in Florida, but I don't have it with me. Yeah. Normally I would use that, but I don't have it with me on the road.
So I really appreciate when people use a podcasting microphone. Some of us are audio types, and we really appreciate when the sound is beautiful. It just makes a difference. We can hear you fine.
I turned off the heater because I realized the heater was going to come on and off, and that was going to be a thing. So.
Okay, cool. So I
freeze to death. You'll know why.
Well, then you can turn it back on, yeah?
No, it's not that quick.
So the sound and the background are super basic, but I noticed that people who are really high level still don't necessarily care so much about them, and I feel that it loses something. Especially people who don't know you. It's easier for us to put you in a category of, oh, I like what they're doing if I can actually really fully like what you're doing, and just appreciate that video gives you a message on all levels. What you say, who you are, who you be, but also what you show of you. If I stand in front of my fridge, I can speak really powerful words, but I'm still giving another message than I am sitting in this very deliberately created background. And so I think for me, it's a gift that you give to your clients or the people that watch you to put that attention to detail. I certainly really, my eyes rest on the background, on the beauty, and I love listening to good sound. I'm like, thank you. I can relax, so my whole system takes it on. Okay, so those were the outside basics. Let's go into the real juice and play on the story.
Is this outfit okay? I could change my shirt too.
Ooh, okay. Let's have a show. What color are we having?
I don't know. Is it something you'd recommend?
It depends on the person. I don't do one size fits all, and I'm not a color stylist kind of person. What I would say is don't wear checkers.
No checkers.
No checkers, no small dots, no flimmery things.
No checkers, no small dots, no flimmery things. So like a t-shirt or a collared shirt?
Well, what was your audience? What do you think they need to see, and how do you feel most somewhere between powerful and comfortable?
I typically wear collared shirts. And I have a nice kind of in between, like a casual collared shirt. Let's try this one.
Nice. Well, wear that one.
I'll give this one.
Da 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 da. Oh, I can see.
I call this one my John Wineland shirt. It reminds me of things.
John Wineland shirt. Okay, let's see what that is. John Wineland for me wears jeans shirts that are unbuttoned at the top.
Yeah, well, it's not quite that, but it's close.
That's how I remember John. John, if you're watching this, and we're toasting you now.
How's this?
That's nice. A good shirt. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got other options.
That's fine. I'd rather use the time to work on the story.
Okay, good. All right. Better than my other shirt, though. Yeah.
I like this.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
It's better than is it better than a t-shirt? I didn't mind the t-shirt, but again, if you think about every layer of you says something, that the question becomes, what do I want to say?
Okay. Yeah.
What I notice with men more than women, unfortunately, without wanting to generalize, but I will, is there's usually less attention on the attire
Right.
than there's women naturally care more about that. I don't know why that's natural. It's not natural.
You
But
think I should unbutton like all the top 3 buttons so I really just like show off? That's a no.
what if
Shouldn't do that.
I don't think so.
Unless my business is a tantra business, then I should do it.
Maybe. Yeah. I don't remember any tantra teachers unbuttoning their shirts or having unbuttoned shirts.
Destin Garrick.
Oh, hang on. Yes. Well, but he has a tattoo.
He has a beautiful tattoo. Yeah, I mean, I got why he did it, but I was like, he always had a t-shirt.
Oh,
He's not really. I don't know if he's really a tantra teacher, but anyway.
That's true. No, but I do appreciate that he had his shirt open. I really loved watching and looking at that tattoo. And then catching myself going, how long have I been looking at this? Okay. Yeah, that's gorgeous. So if you get a tattoo, you can open your shirt. Until then,
Okay.
it's going to have to stay closed.
Noted.
No, this is good. This is perfect. So there's a concept called split attention that's important here. And that is to understand that our attention can be easily split. For example, like if my shirt was unbuttoned and one boob is hanging out, it would be quite likely that your attention would be going away from my words and onto my breast. It would be really weird if it didn't, because it just pulls you there. So a shirt that's too far, that's buttoned up too far, or buttoned down too far, or hair that's standing up this way, or some things like that, they really will split our attention. And as much as we in a real conversation would say, oh, it's not that important what we wear and all these things, it's more important that we have connection. On a video, I'm like, but why is it like that? But why is it like that? And then I just won't listen anymore. So that's why this is also important. Okay, let's go to the story then.
Okay.
Tell me, what's the point of the story?
That's a good question. What's the point of the story? I mean, the point of the story, the point of the whole talk is that, you can sort of just do things sort of functionally just to get things done, or you can make art with that. And actually the first part of the article, which I want to turn into a talk, is I talk about how I notice how I sign my name on the little digital pad. I just kind of like do this thing. And I realized that every time I signed my name, it was like a little etch a sketch. And I was like, oh, I could like draw a picture. So I started like sign my name, draw a little sun and hills in the background. And I was like, oh, this little pad, which I'm treating very functionally, is an opportunity for art. And then I started to look for it. Where in my life are there opportunities to create art that I'm just missing? And so then the date was another example of that. I could have just, it's a virtual date. I could have just said, well, there's nothing, it's a first date. There's nothing I can really do. She's in Salt Lake. I'm in Nashville. I'll order her some food on Grubhub and buy flowers. And instead, I built a whole website and wrote, put poems for her to read, had boxes of dinner and flour delivered to her. I made the whole date a piece of art. Right. And so the idea is when you start to look at your life as a piece of art, you become more creative, you see more possibility, you start to enjoy and delight in it. And so that's the point of the story.
That's it.
Okay.
You've answered the next question that I had, which was, and why do we want to have it more artful? Why do we want it to be art? And you already said it, because you see more possibilities, more opportunities, and you start to enjoy and delight in it.
I probably should write that down or something.
Yeah.
I'll write that down. What did I say? Possibility, creativity, and delight?
You said possibility, opportunity, enjoy, and delight.
Enjoy and delight. Great. Got it. Capture.
So we need to know that. Some people will still some people need the concept of art sold to them. Okay. Let's not assume that everybody is on the same track. They go like, hey, it's art, I must have that. But some people go like, well, so what? And so you just answered the so what, which is super important. I can't believe that you had all these things done for first date. That's really exciting to hear.
Yeah. Thank you.
Beautiful. So cool. Okay, so let's hear the story.
Okay. So I guess I'll just tell you. I guess let's include too much detail and then we can whittle it down. So I guess the context is that it's a woman who I actually had a crush on in college. And we reconnected briefly, sort of towards the end of my last relationship, and then I went on a cleanse for 9 months. And then at the end of my cleanse, I went to Salt Lake City. She had a boyfriend, and I basically told her I wanted her to break up her boyfriend and go out with me instead, and she declined.
So wait, you said what? You said you would what?
I so I came to Salt Lake City just to hang out with her.
I think yeah.
Yeah, and we were spending time together and it just felt really nice. And I went over to her. This is not quite the same story, but I went over to her house and I said, I think we need to stop spending time together. And she said, why? And I was like, well, I feel all this energy between us, and you have a boyfriend. She goes, what do you want? I was like, well, I want you to break up with your boyfriend and go out with me. And that sort of floored her. And I said, I didn't come to Salt Lake City to be your friend. I came here to claim you. And so then she didn't know how to react to that. And
that's quite intense.
I'm an intense dude, Evelyne. Come on. So then she said we had dinner again later on, and she was like, well, I need to figure out what's going on in my relationship before I consider going out with you. And I said, I totally understand. So then we agreed to sort of not be in contact. So then her relationship was already sort of the guy basically has been ghosting her. So then she called me a week later and said, I just broke up with this guy. I hadn't heard from him in like a month. So I just said, hey, we're broken up.
And so then, was that a real boyfriend? Yeah.
Well, you could argue whether it was a real boyfriend or not, right? But anyway, so then we talked on the phone for like a really long time while I was driving from Kansas to Nashville. And then it was either in that conversation or another conversation, I asked her out on a date. I said, let's do a virtual date. And we talked about spending New Year's together. We didn't want that to be the first time we like interacted, because that's a sort of affair. Like, I'm going to come there for New Year's and we're going to spend New Year's together. So I said, well, let's go on a virtual date first. So I asked her on a virtual date. And then I started thinking about like, how could I make the date interesting or a form of practice, sort of practice or art. And so then I got this idea of like, well, what if I created sort of an experience that would last the whole day, right? So, there would be like, she would wake up in the morning and read something and start to reflect on like, what a date was about for her, what she wanted from the date. And then at lunchtime, she would like eat something nourishing, read a poem about like nourishing herself. And then there's instructions for like, okay, as an hour before the date, you can start getting ready now and, put something on that makes you feel like this, and look at yourself in the mirror and reflect on how beautiful you are. And then, and they're all numbered. So all these things were numbered. And then, so then at the time of the date, I hired a woman in Salt Lake City to get dessert, flowers, and dinner, and put them in boxes with numbers on them and bring them to her house. And we got to number 4. I said, okay, you ready? And then I called the woman and she then delivered the boxes. And so that she opened up box number 4, that was the flowers, and box number 5 was dinner, and box number 6 was the dessert. And then we had like an interaction on the date. And then, then there was a thing for her to read the next morning to kind of reflect on the day on resting. Anyway, that's the general story of the date.
Oh my gosh. Wow. She's your girlfriend now.
She's my girlfriend now.
Thank goodness, right?
Makes the story much better.
It makes the story a lot better. Although, who knows? We can always.
And she hated the whole thing. So yeah.
She hated it?
No. I'm joking. That would be the other story. I mean, she did actually cry for the first 30 minutes of the date. That's another.
She cried because she was touched.
She felt a little overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And she was touched. But the date went well. I mean, we had a good time.
Amazing. But you had seen her before and you have been spending time with her.
Yeah. So I briefly we went for a hike in Salt Lake City. I went over to her house one time and we went out to dinner. So I had seen her before.
But why wouldn't you do it a normal date then? Why was it virtual?
Well, so I went back to Nashville for Thanksgiving to be with my parents.
You were somewhere else.
and then I wasn't going to go back to Salt Lake City till New Year's. I mean,
Got it. Yeah.
I might have stayed in Salt Lake City if she had said like, "Oh, I am going to break up with my boyfriend and be with you," but she didn't do that. She said, "I still want to figure out what's going on with this guy." I was like, "All right, well then I'm leaving," because I had plans. I was going to go back to Nashville no matter what, and so then we agreed to New Year's as sort of where we'd actually get together in person, and so I wanted to do something ahead of that.
So let's get the story thank you for sharing it.
You're
Let's
welcome.
get the story public ready.
Okay.
It makes a great point. And so there's certain things that we need to make sure that we say
Okay.
that right now are implied in your story that we haven't heard. You talked about it being a first date. So when you shared with me this was a first date and all the things you did, I thought, oh my God, not just that's intense. Like, I'm making judgments in my mind about what that says about you. Like, if a guy that I don't know sends me things about what I should be thinking about and preparing about, I'm not even sure I would like it. But when you talked about the real story, this is somebody you've known for quite a while and had a crush on. So this is an extra effort you made. It's not a stranger you met.
Right. Yes.
Now in that context, I can just see the beautiful effort you made. I'm like, wow, he's really going all in, which is like too right. This is awesome. So when you're telling the story, you need to be a bit careful that people don't think this is a stranger you're meeting. Imagine like this guy having a date, setting up a date, and there comes a box and said, think about this, and now you're going to eat this for lunch, and think about that, and now it's time for you to get ready for the date and feel about this. I'm like, whoa.
Well, yeah, I mean, I even thought that I wouldn't necessarily include those parts in the story. I might just talk about how I built a website that helped her like prepare for the date. I made sure I had flowers and dinner delivered, because the whole like giving her instructions, like that makes sense in the context of our relationship because she does a lot of this polarity work with John. So right, so it was me offering leadership. I don't know if most people would. It's a weird thing in the normal world to tell a woman, "Here's how you're going to get ready for the date." Like it's, I think that would be intense for a lot of people. So I was thinking about leaving those details kind of out because I think I'd have to provide a lot of context. I told you because I wanted to tell you the whole story, but.
Got it. And that makes sense that in the context of the polarity work, that's really beautiful. And out of the context, it's a little bit questionable.
Yeah, it'd be like, why are you so controlling of women? Like, yes, yeah.
Yes, that's basically what we're then thinking. Like, why do you have to take your leadership that far? Okay. Okay, so let's leave it out for the sake of the story. And the point is that you can create art. And the point is that you're enjoying it more and you can delight in it. So I need to hear aspects of you delighting and enjoying it as well.
Okay. And I mean, would you recommend that I outline the key points I want to hit? I mean, how would you? That's how I do it in this. If I was doing this for like a regular speech, I would say, okay, here are the main points I want to hit, and then I would let myself I wouldn't write out the whole story. That's just not typically. Otherwise, I feel like it sounds a bit like, and then I did this. But I would write, okay, here's the things I want to hit as I'm telling the story, and then trust myself to weave them together.
Yeah, personally, that's how I do it too as a storyteller. And when people come to me and they're not used to telling stories or they're easily going into waffle land and getting stuck there, then I recommend making sure that we know either when to hit it or just at least have a basic script.
Okay, so I need to hit on first that I knew her for a long time. And then I need to talk about kind of how I originally saw the first date. And then I need to talk about sort of how I transformed it.
It's always nice to have a bit of contrast. So a date of art is great in the contrast of how usually dates are. And so it's not, you could reiterate on that.
Okay.
I invited her to a virtual date. Now, a virtual date, really? Another Zoom meeting, talking about things and thinking that you'd rather do something else. No thanks. So maybe just take me into that world for a second before you show me what is possible when you become creative.
And then I get a little stuck on points. So I do the contrast of the regular first date and how I transformed it. And I tell a little bit of that story. And then there's probably a conclusionary point where I kind of talk about how this is art, but I feel like there's something in between there that I'm missing.
Yeah. Well, right now it's more of an example than a story.
Hmm.
Right? The story needs an arch, and the story needs a bit of a. Then we need to have a nemesis somewhere and a
Hmm.
challenge that you're overcoming.
Hmm.
So we're going from A to B right now. It's more like, hey, you can transform your life into art. Like you can have a virtual date or a date that's artful. So
So
what
if
is
I was
the?
going to make this a standalone video, I mean, let's just assume I would make this a standalone video
Hmm.
as opposed to a point in a larger context. I think that would work better for our purposes here. And I think it would probably work better in the speech if I treated it that way, as sort of a standalone thing. Um, I would want to talk about first sort of life as art, right? The possibility of creating life as art. Would I introduce that concept, or is it like more of a cliffhanger?
You can. I mean, there's no right and wrong. It's your
Hmm.
choice. So well, let's play one way each. Let's do one way where we introduce the concept first and then tell the story, and then we leave it away and tell the story. So you'll see
Okay.
what fits better for you.
Okay. All right. So should I just try it again?
Let's do it, please. Yes. So are
Okay.
you starting with a concept or without?
I'm going to start with the concept.
Great.
The tip of the tongue, the teeth, the lips, the teeth, the tip of the tongue. The tip of the tongue, the teeth, the lips, the teeth, the tip of the tongue. All right. So one of the things that I learned during the pandemic is that even when things are limited and kind of dreary, if you can turn it into a work of art, you create this sense of possibility and delight and just see opportunities everywhere you go. So for example, one of the things that happened to me during the pandemic was I went on a first date with a woman I've had a crush on for a long time. So we knew each other in college, we reconnected after many years. We had talked for hours on the phone. We wanted to see each other in person, but because of our situation, we wanted to do a first date that was virtual. And like most of you know, if you imagine a virtual date, it's, I set up a Zoom room, maybe I order you something from Grubhub, but it's sort of dreary. And normally for a first date, I would go out and buy flowers. And I felt really limited. I felt like, wow, this first date's going to be kind of a bummer, sort of like the whole pandemic is a bummer. And then I started to think about, well, is there a way I could turn this date into art, right? Is there a way I could create art with this date? And so I said, what would I might do for a client, or how could I be creative with this? And I realized that one of the things I've done in the past is build websites and create experiences for people in my work. So I said, what if I create an experience for her? So instead of just doing a first date, I built a little website. I arranged for an assistant to bring her flowers and dinner at a particular time. And I created a real experience, an experience that she could follow online as well as in person. And so the date was, mostly on Zoom and us talking, but it was surrounded by this work of art that I created for her. That was an expression of how special this date was for us. And what was really interesting was that at first, when I was relating to the date, it was sort of this like, well, I guess I have to get through this and do my best. But as I started to build the website and arrange the flowers, not only did I start to have more fun, but I started to invite people into the possibility of love in my date. So the woman I hired in Salt Lake City she was giggling as we were talking on the phone and picking up macaroons. The people at the restaurant I talked to, when I explained what's happening, they did extra special little things for me. So instead of this date just being this experience between me and this incredible woman, it was like this whole community of people were surrounded about this possibility of love in the midst of the pandemic. And so that's what I'm really present to in my life, is that if you're willing to create art, if you're willing to look at life as a piece of art, you can take something that can feel dreary and constricting and make it into something that's really incredible, not just for the people involved, but for everybody around.
Beautiful. How
Yeah,
did that feel?
it felt good.
Great. Awesome. Yeah, it was good. It was good. Now, are you ready for some feedback?
And let me tell you, yes, I'm prepared.
Good.
Yes, I'm ready.
Yeah, good. I love using stories to make a point at the end. I think they're incredible. They're incredible ways to communicate and to influence and to impact. And so when you use a story for business purposes, you have the story and then you connect it to the point that you want to make to your viewer. You did that by making your point clear at the end. You can maximize the impact by asking a question. So at the end, you could say, what would become possible for you, your life, and your business if you turned the things that you planned on doing into art, or into if you let your creativity free on the things that you plan to do, what difference will that make for you? What kind of people? And then I don't know where you want to take it. Is it about the people, the community that comes together? Because I've really enjoyed that point. Or is it just where could your business be if you were thinking that way? Can you feel the difference between saying it and asking it and opening up the question to them?
Yes, I can.
Number 2, there is a way that you tell story that you have a certain melody in your speech, and that repeats. And so after a while, I'm becoming a little less interested than I want to be. And that's because I'm getting lulled into the melody of your speaking versus the story. What I would love from you, Toku, is for you to get so engaged in the story that the story comes alive through your voice. And you had that in moments, I think at the end, when you talk about the whole community coming together, you were suddenly in it, and I could see it with you because you were seeing it. So there's a difference between, I call this recital mode, and living the story. Yeah?
Yeah.
And it's really easy for us, as those who know our stories and our material, to fall into recital mode. And what we want is to go into living the story.
Okay.
So I'm going to challenge you to allow yourself to see what you're talking about in your mind's eye, and then give me the movie version. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
And then thirdly, is on the diction piece, and I'm going to give you a super hack to hack your diction. You don't have to speak a lot slower. Just be more deliberate so that I can hear you better. Because what happens sometimes is your voice goes to the back of your throat versus out in the front. As an actor, you've heard of projection. We want to project our voice outside, and sometimes what happens is we kind of close the sound inside a little bit more. And that's what happens to you at times, but not all the time. So you go like this, it does this. I would love more of it to be out. So I think for you, all it needs is a little deliberate, let me tell you.
Okay.
And assume that my ears are not so good. I might be speaking to you in my third language, which I actually am. And other viewers might not have English as their first language. We just want to be that extra bit deliberate so they get it.
Okay.
Cool. Here's the hack for getting your diction. Take your tongue, the tip of the tongue behind the bottom front teeth, and stretch out the tongue like that. So keep it out there. I'll be speaking. And now we're going to say a couple of sentences, 1 or 2 sentences, whilst having the tongue there. It's going to sound ridiculous. Start with the first sentences of your of the concept. Describe the concept.
The concept.
I'm going to talk to you about having.
I'm talking like this. So I'm going to talk about how to turn life into art.
I'm going to talk to you about turning life into art.
I'm going to talk about turning life into art.
Let's keep going. It's good what you said.
And when we take life into art,
Let's keep going. It's got the fun already.
I sound like the guy from the Pink Panther. Oh, I make myself laugh. I'm going to talk about turning life into art.
Yes.
And when we turn life into art, there will create more possibility, enjoyment, and delight.
Great. Now, sung back in. Tell me the same sentence now.
I'm going to talk to you about turning life into art. And when you do that, you will experience more possibility, enjoyment, and delight. It works really well.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah. Take the tongue away and give it back.
Yep. It's. I love this exercise because it's so black and white on what it does.
Yeah.
That's a great setup as well. Before you start, just give yourself a round of that.
Okay.
Okay. Let's hear it again.
Okay.
May I interrupt you if I have something to...
You may. Yes, you may. All right. So one of the things that I learned during the pandemic was how much possibility there is if you take ordinary life and turn it into a work of art. And the way that I learned this was that I went on a first date, which I think a lot of people did during the pandemic, virtually. But it wasn't just a normal, ordinary first date. This was a first date that I had with a woman that I'd known since college, that I had a crush on her in college. We talked
And
for.
we lose most people in the first 8 to 10 seconds of our video because they're
Okay.
deciding really quickly whether they want to watch this or not. So it would be really great if the first few sentences are impactful.
Okay.
What do you want to tell me, really?
I mean, I think I want to tell people that your life, well, you'll experience more life or you'll enjoy your life more if you look at it as a piece of art.
Great. And I like the intro that this is what you've learned through the pandemic. But I noticed in this round, if I'm going to repeat it, it's like, so one thing I've learned in this pandemic is that you can have more if you turn your life into art. And the way that I learned about this was that I actually went on a virtual first date. I'm exaggerating just a little bit,
Sure.
but you get it. Just like,
Totally. Yeah. And this is, I mean, it's interesting. I often struggle the second time I tell a story. So it's first time, it's very fresh. And often on the second take, I get worse because I'm like, well, kind of just repeating. It's like hard for me to replicate the same, I'm doing it for the first time feeling.
yes. And what also happens for some of us is we feel a bit fake
Mm,
repeating it. It's like we shouldn't be repeating myself. I've just said
mm,
that. How can I feel? How can I be honestly saying this and pretend it's coming out of me spontaneously when it's not? So
mm,
it's almost like we're feeling we could be busted lying.
mm,
I noticed that, and then people make something, they cover the second or third versions up a little to not
mm,
make it sound like they're lying, trying to be fresh when it's not fresh. So
mm,
you have full permission to be like a little dog. When I have the bone and I throw the bone, you go and go, and then you bring it back, and then I take the bone and I throw the bone, and you just run back at it like it's
mm,
it's just that's the game.
mm,
I'm gonna throw the bone again. We'll do a new take, and you get to be super powerful and clear in your messaging,
mm.
even though we've just heard the same thing.
Okay.
It's that naivete. Is that, oh, I'm telling it again. Okay, like
All
we've
right.
never done this before.
Okay. All right. So I should try again.
You should try again, and you
Okay.
must not start with the word so.
So yes, my editor, when I write, often takes a lot of so's and ands out because I do that a lot.
Yeah, there's no reason to start with a conjunction that has no meaning.
Okay. Got it. And then immediately the first word that pops into my head is so. So I'm not going to do that.
So in your head, it's all right.
Yeah.
We didn't see it.
Yeah. One thing I learned during the pandemic was that if I see my life as a work of art, I can create it in a way that's more enjoyable, delightful, and full of possibility. The way that I learned this was I actually went on a first date, and it wasn't just an ordinary first date. This was a first date with a woman that I had a crush on in college. I'd known for years. We had talked for a while as friends before this, and there was a lot of excitement and possibility in our connection. But before we spent time together in person, we wanted to go on a date, and because it's the pandemic, we had to do it virtually. And if you think about a first date that's virtual, it's kind of like a wah wah, like a kind of a bummer, right? Like you're gonna get on Zoom and you're gonna wear a nice shirt and maybe you'll order something from Grubhub, but it's not really as exciting as a regular first date might be. And so as I was thinking about going on a date with her, I started to think about what if I, instead of went along with the lameness of a first Zoom date, what if I found a way to make the date creative or interesting? And I started to think about the date as a work of art. And if I was going to create art with this date, how would I do this? So instead of just,
Okay, and stop.
planning a, yep.
Much better, right? Did you?
Yes,
The
much
beginning
better.
was much better. Was much better. I'm stopping you now because we can start the work and then continue with it. Can you feel how you're going into the recital mode?
Yeah, a little bit.
You are in an elevated recital mode now. So you're more activated than you often are on videos when I've
Okay.
seen you. But it still goes into this, and here I am telling you, and here I am telling you. So
Mm,
the story is removed from you right now.
mm,
I want you to become the actor again that's in the story.
mm,
And what would be really wonderful is to see your range and to see how you're relating to each part of the story.
mm,
In other words, I want to feel you.
mm,
So if you're telling me that you're excited, I want to feel that you're excited.
mm.
And it wouldn't hurt to show me that you're also a little bit nervous because you've got to get this right.
Yeah.
Whereas what I'm getting, and this is tempting for us as coaches and leaders, we like to be in the status, we like to be on the high status. But the
Mm,
story is boring when it stays on the same status. We need a change of status in the story.
mm.
Yeah, the hero is not da 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 da, da and then there was a problem and I solved it. That's not a good story.
Yeah.
There has
Okay.
to be a crisis. Now, it doesn't have to be total drama, but a little bit of like so. And the way I learned that was with a first date that I arranged with a woman that I had a crush on since college,
Mm,
and I had the opportunity to meet her, and I wanted to create something special, like show me that it means something to you.
mm, mm.
That's number one. Can you take another cue?
Yeah. Let me just make sure I write that down because I'll retain more information. Okay. So, uh, great.
Status change is important in story,
Yep. Got that.
and be in the story. Like show me the how you relate to each part. Show me your nervousness. Show me vulnerability. And the next cue is I notice that you buy yourself time by repeating words. And I'm thinking, how can I create something more interesting with art? And then I'm thinking that the way I can create something more interesting with art is so you're looping words in
Mm,
order to buy yourself the time to think.
mm,
And instead of doing that, slow your speaking down to buy
mm,
yourself the time to think.
mm,
So we notice with people who say so right or repeat parts,
mm,
they're trying to go over the space that would be there in the emptiness because they need the
mm,
space to catch up with their thinking.
mm,
And so the way to not have those fillers is to have either the silence or slow down your speech so your head can do this on top of it.
Okay. All right. I can do that.
Let's do it.
Do you want me to start at the beginning or at the
Yeah.
the date part? At the beginning. Okay. All right. I lied. I don't know if I saw the first bit. All right. So, yeah. One thing that I learned during the pandemic was the possibility that can be created if you treat your life as a work of art. And the way that I learned this was that I actually planned a first date. And like first dates are pretty nerve-wracking already, but this wasn't just an ordinary first date. So this was a first date with a woman that I'd known for 20 years. I had a crush on her in college. And we had started talking during the pandemic, and I was really, really excited to go out with her, and I wanted to make a really good impression. And I was struggling. I was like, how am I going to make an incredible impression on this woman that I've thought about for a long time on Zoom, which is like the most unimpressive format ever, right? Like just incredible bummer. We're going to talk, and I'm going to order her food from Grubhub. And normally this would be a date that I would really go all out for. And I didn't know how to go all out for a Zoom date. But instead, I started thinking, I was like, okay, how can I make this date really extraordinary? Something that would be really different, that would have me stand out as a man who's asked her out on a date.
Right, here's an acting opportunity right there.
Okay.
Well done until you said all out, right? You notice I'm gonna get it all out for. I'm gonna get it all out. It's a weird thing to say all out. You're allowed to catch yourself and do it, but I noticed that was a funny spot when you said all out. Did you notice that?
No, not really, but
No, maybe it's my thing. It was
okay.
really good. I loved how you tied it together.
Okay.
Now there's exactly the acting opportunity that we have. When I say acting opportunity, I do not mean pretending you're someone else. I
Okay.
mean we have the opportunity to show rather than tell.
Hmm.
This is the magic of storytelling. You get to show, you don't have to tell them.
Hmm.
And here I was feeling devastated and lonely. You know, don't tell, show me. So,
Okay.
and here I am, and on Zoom, which is the most dull format ever. Like if you say the word bummer, I want to feel bummer. It's just a bummer. So I'm thinking, how can I make this extraordinary?
Hmm.
I want to go all out. Like how can I be this person who's thinking in the moment, yeah?
Okay.
In the moment, you're now reliving the situation.
So I was trying to do that, but I need to do more of that, is what you're saying.
Even more of that. You have
Okay,
full
even more. All right. All right.
Yeah, so now don't start from the from the start. Go I learned
Start from
this.
all out.
I created a virtual date with a woman that I had a crush with.
Okay,
On.
great. Um, I wanted to make a really incredible impression on her, but I think about a Zoom date, it's like, it's just a bummer. You know, we're gonna sit on Zoom. I'm gonna order food from Grubhub. We're gonna talk. Like, it just feels boring. And I started to think, like, how could I make this date extraordinary? How could I make this date one of the most incredible dates she's ever been on? And then I had this idea, like, what if the date wasn't just a date? What if the date was a work of art? You know, if I was going to hang this date in a gallery, what would I do? And so I started to think about, what are the elements of a date? How could I make them more interesting and creative? And so instead of just planning a date and setting a time, I built a website that would carry us through the date, have an outline, would create these different elements. And instead of just having dinner delivered to her, I hired a woman in the city that she lived in to take the dinner and put it in a box, and to get flowers and wrap them in a particular way, and to get a very special dessert that I knew that she would really like. And the whole idea was, you can take these elements of a date, you know, meeting and talking, having dinner, and virtually where they would be kind of limited and constricted, and you can take that limitation and make it really interesting, make it really fascinating. And as I did this, not only did we have an incredible time on the date, but other people started to get involved. So the restaurant was really excited to prepare the meal. The woman who I hired was really excited to wrap the flowers. Um, and so it wasn't just her and I sharing in this date, right? It became like a work of art that not just the painter and the viewer, but everybody gets to really enjoy. And that's when I started to realize that I couldn't just do this with a date. I could do this with anything. I could do it with the way I sign my name at a coffee house. I could do it with the way that I have a conversation with a customer service agent. That every place in life where I felt limited or constricted, or like things were kind of a bummer or not that much fun, that was an opportunity to create a work of art. And so what I wanted to invite you to consider is, what would be possible in my life, in my business, in my work, if I saw it as a work of art? What if, instead of just sending out a bill or an invoice as being something I do functionally, what if the bill was a work of art? What if the way that I mow my lawn or do my landscaping isn't just sort of, you know, I try to have the nice, pretty lawn, but it's an expression of who I am as a human being? So what would be possible in your life if you saw it as a work of art?
Okay, good. Well done.
Thank you.
How did that feel for you?
Felt better, felt more engaging.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I got a little recycly at the end, maybe a little teacherly at the end.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you have more time?
Yeah, I have a little bit more time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it got exciting when you were Toku, like, and I was wondering, how can I do this? How can I make it interesting? How did it? Then you went back into, and then I began to think. So you went back into the storyteller, almost like the writer. So in my editing, I would that out.
Okay.
I would go, so what if I turn this into an experience? What if instead of just sending her food from Grubhub, what if I had different boxes delivered to her door? I could number them. I could hire somebody to do that. And then she would get the flowers at a certain time and the starter at a certain time. What if I created a whole experience and laid it all out on a beautiful website? And as I thought about these things, I got really excited. And so it was done. Not only did we have a wonderful time together, as I'm sure you can imagine, it became about more than me and this incredible woman. The woman who did the flowers got really excited and then wrapped the flowers with her giggles. I was talking to the assistant. She was totally in for it. The restaurant did extra bits. I mean, you did this piece so beautifully because you really get excited when you talk about that. So do that. That's so good. Do that again. So it became about more than the date. It became a community event. It became art. We need to know where the stop of the story is, the finish line, which to me is right there at the last sentence. It became art, or it became a community event. You get to choose, but know where your stop line is.
Yeah.
Stop, scene, right? Then you step into Toku the coach.
Okay.
And you can say all other things that you want to say if you want to say all of these things. Turning things that are functional into art brings more joy, brings more aliveness, brings more creativity, more opportunity to you, your business, and the people around you. What would become possible for you if you turn the things that you need to do anyway into art?
Okay. Yeah, I got it. That makes sense. Okay.
Want to try that?
Yeah. This might be the last take I have in me, but yes, let's try it. I love that exercise. It's so helpful.
It's really helpful, that exercise.
It's a very exercise. It's very helpful, Evelyn. Thank you so much for it.
If you're supposed to talk like that, you go, have you been playing the Evelyne Brink? Yes, I have!
Me too. I was also playing by Evelyne Brink. It's amazing.
Now say it without the tongue.
I have also been trained by Evelyne Brink. She's amazing.
Yay!
Yay!
It works. All right. And
okay.
Action.
One of the things that I learned during the pandemic was the possibility of taking something ordinary and functional and turning it into a work of art. And the way that I learned this was on a first date. And as you can imagine, a first date is always full of nerves and awkwardness. This wasn't just an ordinary first date. This was a first date with a woman that I had had a crush on since college. We talked for a long time. I wanted this first date to be really special. And as I started thinking about the date, I was thinking, this is going to be a virtual date. And as soon as I thought that, this is going to be boring. We're going to sit on Zoom. We're going to talk about questions that we have. It's just really uninteresting. And I started to ask myself, well, what can I do to make this date special? What can I do to make this date really, really interesting? And so I started to think, well, what if instead of just ordering food from Grubhub and having it delivered, buying her flowers from a grocery store?
Do it. Think about it.
What if instead of just ordering her food from Grubhub and getting flowers from the grocery store, what if I did something different? What if I had someone get the flowers and wrap them in a beautiful bow and deliver them in a special box that was numbered, so when she opened it, it was like opening a gift on Christmas morning? And what if instead of just getting some food, in a little to-go container, what if I had a restaurant prepare a meal in a way that when she got it and opened it, it was like sitting down at a gourmet restaurant? And what if I ordered a special dessert?
Slow down. This is so good. So don't rush with this, right? This is the recycling mode is just, I need to get through it. You're making art with video. with
Okay.
storytelling, literally. So enjoy that. Like, what if I did that? And then breathe, because I'm breathing here.
Hmm.
I'm thinking, wow. You should be thinking, wow. I mean, imagine you get a meal and it looks like a sit-down restaurant. What?
Hmm. Okay.
And then think about the dog with the bone. And then what if I did this? What if I did that? What if I did this? Because that's how it happened in your head when you initially did it.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
didn't just come, what if I did this? And then what if I did that? Oh, I know. Oh, yeah, this is me doing art. Watch me go. 1, 2, 3.
Okay. Let me try that part again.
And one piece before,
Sure.
please use the word dull with Zoom. That really was funny. It has a comic effect.
Dull.
It was a virtual date on Zoom. Oh my gosh. What could be more dull? But you see, you have to laugh, right? Versus, but it was going to be a virtual date on Zoom. And I mean, a virtual date on Zoom is really pretty uninteresting. We're just going to sit there, we're going to talk. You see,
Hmm. So
dull.
dull. Yeah, it's good.
That's just so dull.
Hmm.
It's a good word, dull.
Okay. Okay, got it. Um, this wasn't just any normal first date. This was a first date with a woman I had a crush on since college. We talked for a long time. I wanted this date to be really special. And since we had to do it virtually, I was thinking, man, a first date on Zoom, what could be more dull? We're going to sit there and talk about our lives. And yeah. And then I asked myself, what can I do to make this date really extraordinary? I thought, instead of just getting her food ordered from Grubhub or getting flowers from a grocery store, what if I hired someone to get flowers from like a special flower shop, her favorite flowers? She loves sunflowers, and get them wrapped in a particular kind of bow, and then have it put inside a box so that when she opens it, it's like opening a gift on Christmas morning. And what if just like instead of a regular dinner, I made it so that when she got dinner, it was like getting a dinner at a sit down restaurant, which is something that we all have been wanting this entire time. We've been trapped inside. And what if instead of just getting a regular dessert, I ordered a special dessert that I knew that she would really love? I actually ordered these special macaroons that smelled like rose and chocolate. And so as I started to put together this date, I started to realize, wow, like this isn't just going to be a regular date. This is going to be an incredible date. And then not only did we have an incredible time on the date, what was amazing was that everyone who was involved in it started to get excited about the possibility of love during the pandemic. So the assistant I hired was giggling and delighting and setting up the flowers and the dinner. And my friends who I asked for support were just rooting me on and cheering me on the whole time, texting me afterwards and asking, did you have a good time? And so this thing that could have been very dull and cumbersome ended up being this beautiful work of art that involved the entire community. So what I want you to consider is, what if the things that you do in your life you have to do anyway, the things that you especially consider dull or taxing, could be things that create delight and enjoyment for you and for everyone around
Yes?
you. Can I say more? Should I just stop there?
Oh, okay. So, see, I'm confused now. Exactly. I'm like, are we done now? Like, what happened? This is
I felt that, but I was like, I don't know what else to add. So
a bit premature here. Like, come on. So, first of all, that was, it's great. Let's do the ending. What you add is, okay, so this is all part of it. Great. Got it. At the moment, you're using words to not show us your feeling. And what we want from you is your feeling. Or in other words, we need to feel your turn on. And your aliveness, and which is totally there when you're speaking, and you were getting into it, but it's almost like the sensation arose in your body and you had to talk it down by describing stuff. And it was consistent. If you watch this back, you will see it happening, where we want to think, feel it, let me see you. You're talking over it. And so that's what's happening at the end as well, because this is a high sensation moment when you're closing the story. There needs to be a pause because the curtains are closing in your mind. Then you become Toku the teacher and say, creating art out of tasks that are cumbersome or dull brings more aliveness and more opportunity. What would be possible for you if you turned your functional tasks into art?
Hmm.
And that becomes a question at the end, an opening, and then you can stop. Versus what you were doing is, and here's what I want you to consider. You can take the things that are cumbersome and dull and turn them into art. And we're like, yes, and yeah, you get it?
Mm-hmm.
But it's very deliberate in the way that you communicate it. So you close the story, and then you go into this opening. Fact, this is what happens when you do it like that. What would be possible for you?
Okay. All right, let me try the end again.
So go from the last sentence of the ending where you say, and so it turned from being a date for just you to this extraordinary experience of the community, or just like.
Not only did we have a really incredible time on the date, but it turned this thing that could have just been a boring, dull event with two people into an incredible work of art that involved the entire community.
Sorry, Toku, I have to interrupt you because I've noticed this. When it becomes really important, your voice disappears.
Huh.
So I heard you, it becomes a credible work of art for the entire community. What? So it's the opposite. You want to be deliberate towards the end. The last word is the most important one.
All right.
Give me the energy before the full stop. It's at the full stop you can let go, not beforehand.
Okay. So instead of this just being a dull event between two people, it became a work of art, and not just a work of art between two people, but a work of art that the whole community could enjoy.
Yeah, the reason why you see my eyes go and say, it's interesting, you said community, and because there was still energy left, you kept going. It's almost as if you think that as long as there's energy in the gas in the tank, you must drive. And you don't have to drive just because you still can. Stop where it's powerful, but it means you have to feel it in your body and hold it.
Okay. So instead of it just being a dull Zoom date between two people, it became a work of art, and a work of art that involved the entire community.
The what?
The entire community. Did I swallow it again?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How do I do that? It's so interesting.
It is to do with sensation, Toku. It's to do with really feeling in your power. You're holding a lot of sensation when you speak this way.
Okay. So instead of it just being a dull Zoom date between two people, it became an incredible work of art that involved the entire community.
Okay.
So what I want you to consider is, what if you took the functional, boring things in your life, the things that felt limited and constricting, and turned them into incredible works of art? What if you took the way you bill your clients, the way you sign your name on a digital pad, and instead of seeing those as things to simply get done, you saw them as opportunities to create something really special? What if you could see your whole life as a work of art? It was okay.
It's okay. So the reason why it's not as strong is that when you say what I want you to consider is, I'm expecting a teaching element, and then you're asking questions that aren't really yet questions.
Oh my God, my phone is just blowing up. Hold on.
Oh, it's the president.
No, I'm trying to get a move done, so I put it on Do Not Disturb mode, so it shouldn't get calls.
Tell me why. Tell me, do you want to ask an open question, or does it have to be closed? Because I noticed when I give you that piece, I say, what would be possible for you to do that? And I can really open it up. And when you speak it back, You always start. You say, "Well, here's what I want. What I want you to consider is this. What if you did this, and what if you did that, and what if you looked at it like this?" And it feels a little more like there's a little, like not a lid on it, but it feels a little dampened to the. Is there a reason for it? It might be a good reason for it.
No, I don't think there's a reason for it. I wasn't aware I was doing.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's not is it the question that I'm asking that's closed or the energy's closed?
Probably more the energy. We're also using different kind of wordings.
So what's the wording difference?
You're starting with, so what I want you to consider is this. And I don't say that. I'll just go in, what would be possible for you if you did it like that, or if you saw this?
Okay.
What if life was really art? And I'm asking them as questions out into the room. I'm not making a point anymore. I'm asking it to you.
Okay. All right. I'll give it a shot.
Try that.
So instead of this just being a dull Zoom date between two people in the middle of a pandemic, it became a work of art, something that not only the two of us enjoyed, but that created something for the entire community. The entire community. I don't know how to transition without saying, I want you to consider. It feels weird for me to just say, so what if your life was a work of art? It just feels like there's a big gap, like there's no bridge between the two statements.
The bridge was to summarize the point. Taking tasks that can feel mundane or even taxing and creating art out of them helps us find more creativity, opportunities, and enjoyment.
Okay. So instead, I want you to consider. Right. Okay.
So you summarize, give me the points back, and then ask the question, what will become. So this is the transition. You have story, close, the teacher who says, and this was the point here, just to recap, these were the points I was teaching about, and then offering the question to them.
Okay. So instead of this just being a boring Zoom date between two people in the middle of a pandemic, it became so much more. It became a really incredible piece of art. So what if you took the functional, limited things in your life, like signing a pad when you buy a coffee or sending a bill out to a client, and turn that from this thing that you have to get done to this thing that you can create something incredible through? What if you could take the dull places in your life and turn them into incredible works of art?
Yes, you can do that. But your feeling is not quite as strong yet, right?
Yeah.
Because you didn't put the thing in. So what we said is close the story, do the teachy bit, and then ask the question. You go straight into question.
I thought I did the teachy bit. The teachy bit is the examples.
So
you want me to re-summarize the main point?
Yes. It's energetically. So you go back into Toku the teacher.
Okay.
And then you coach at the end with a question. So you have the story where you're casual and you tell the story, and it was like this and it was that, and then I did, what am I going to do? How I do this? And it was amazing. And then it became this event, not just for us, but for the entire community. So taking something that was dull and taxing and turning it into art brings more creativity, more joy, more opportunity. Teaching bit. Now coach. What would become possible for you if you took things that you had to do anyway and turned them into art?
Okay.
Does that make sense, Toku?
It does. Yeah. I'm getting a little tired too, so it's
fair enough. It's
part of it. Yeah. Okay. So instead of it just being a dull Zoom date between two people in the middle of a pandemic, it became so much more. It became a work of art that not only the two of us really enjoyed, but that created something really special for the entire community. I don't know how to say community in the way that you say it. You say it in a way that I don't.
For the entire community.
But I feel like if I end with an up, it just sounds like a question.
For the entire community. As long as there's a sound in your voice, you're going to be okay.
Okay.
It's just the sound disappears sometimes before the end of the word.
Sure. I got it. I think I just don't like the word community. I think that
Oh.
I think that word disappears in my mouth.
Then let's take a different word.
Okay.
For everybody involved.
For everybody involved, yes. I can do that more openly. So instead of it just being a dull instead of it just being a dull Zoom date between two people in the middle of a pandemic, it created something really incredible, not only for the two of us, but for everyone involved. So when you take something that's functional and turn it into a work of art, you transform it from something dull and boring that you have to get through to something that's creative and open and full of possibility. So I want you to consider, so what if you saw the things in your life that you're trying to manage as opportunities to create something really unique and really special? What if you took the way you sign your signature on a digital pad, or the way you send out a bill, and instead of seeing it as, I've just said that already again.
You did.
Yeah, I'm really part of this. My brain's just getting tired of telling you.
It's fine. That's why it's good to continue this at another time. It's because you went in a what if question, and then you kind of, the what if invites us to ramble a bit.
Okay.
What becomes possible for you if you turn your things into a work of art?
So I don't really need the examples.
No, not really.
So when you take something ordinary and boring and strip away all the limitations and instead see how it could be a work of art, you open up this whole realm of possibility and delight that wasn't there before. So what might be possible for you if you took those boring, ordinary parts of your life and instead of accepting how dull and limiting they are, you instead turn them into incredible works of art?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And keep it up and turning them into works of art. So if you let your voice be up at the end, you're giving me the possibility to think for myself. If you turn your voice down at the end, you're telling me what to do.
Yeah, but I want to tell people what to do. I like that, Evelyne.
Well, do that after they've paid you.
No, I don't really like to do that, but there's probably an energetic pattern for me. So.
That was super fun, Toku. Was that useful for you?
Very useful. Very useful. You're a tough teacher, Evelyne, but I like it. Very helpful. Yeah. I'll need a week to process all of this, but it's really good. It's a lot of good stuff. It's very, very helpful.
Sorry if I was too tough.
No, you weren't too tough at all. You're just tough. Tough is good.
That was good.
I would expect nothing less from a German.
Well, we're aiming for mastery in a very
absolutely. No, it was good. No, I appreciated it. Yeah, I mean, I am tired, but that's how you should feel after a session of very intense practice. So
a good workout.
Yeah, exactly.
Super. Well, thank you for playing with me. I really appreciate that. Happy processing. Do you think you can do a good version of that story that we can all see?
Yep. I will practice a version of that story and I'll send you the finished version.
That would be amazing. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
It's a pleasure. I'm going to hop off. I've got another client.
Bye, Evelyne.
See you soon. Bye.